Hello everybody, it's me, GhostCritic, back in my comic book corner, which can only mean one thing. Yes, after a month-long hiatus where you've not got to hear me talk about comics for a whole 30 odd days, yes, I'm back to review, give my opinions and thoughts about the comics that I picked up last week. They've finally all been read. I've ingested, condensed all of it all, and now my mouth is just going to spew out a lot of thoughts and opinions of my own about these books. I'm glad that you've come back to watch it. Thank you to everyone who's stuck around waiting patiently for me to start re-uploading these videos again. If you are new to my channel and this is the first video you've seen, there are two things you need to know about this particular type of video. I rank the comics from least liked to my pick of the week, and they are my own personal choices. If you have any other thoughts about the comics, please let me know in the comment section down below and I'll reply to you as soon as I can. And number two, this is a review video of sorts, therefore there will be spoilers. I will be talking plot points, cliffhangers, all that stuff that if you've not read the comics you won't want spoiled. So run off, read the comics, come back and watch my video. And this week, at the bottom of the pile, unfortunately, is Astonishing X-Men. Issue number 14. New writer at the helm now with Matthew Rosenberg, who's doing a great job on The Punisher. Unfortunately, this particular rendition, I guess you could say, of the Astonishing X-Men isn't really doing it for me as yet. Those who know me of old, I'm a little bit of a stubborn one and I'll probably hang on to this for a few more issues just to see if we get anywhere with it. It's a shame because at the moment Matt is trying to bring together a brand new Astonishing X-Men team, and for me it just feels incredibly clunky and it just doesn't. There's no real reason why all these people should come together. Yes, there are reasons, but I just don't buy them very much. We have Havoc, who's wanting to lead this new, I guess you'd call them unsanctioned X-team, because pretty much no one wants to be on it. Kitty Pryde, the leader of whatever X-team that she's leading at the moment, is not happy that he's trying to bring a team together, and we kind of see a little tie into that in this issue. We started off in the last issue with Havoc trying to get Beast on board, and then the Reavers charged in, and this is kind of the continuation of that, where Banshee suddenly appeared. He apparently has been in a coma for, well, I can't remember the last time we saw Banshee in an X title. So this is a bit of a shock, and he's looking a bit worse for wear, but if you've been in a coma for decades you probably will look like death warmed up. But he is no less powerful as he makes short work of one of the Reavers, and then out of the blue James Proudstar turns up and beheads one of the other Reavers, and it just doesn't feel right, and it's a shame. I know it's awkward trying to bring in a brand new team and kind of give them some sort of purpose, which Matt does in this story. We find out the Reavers have this list, and it's got lots of X-Men names on them. The Beast is at number 1 for some reason, and even more bizarre is our cover star, Dazzler. She's at number 2. Now there's no rhyme or reason, as far as I can see at the moment, or what the connection is, why the Beast is like the top mutant that they want to kind of get rid of, and then Dazzler to be the second. There's a bit of humour thrown in there as well. Havoc is something like number 36 on the list, and just above him at 35 is Hellion. And it's like the joke, who the hell is Hellion? And you can help us out. It's been a long time since I've heard that name. It's kind of familiar, but not one of the big X-Men's, I'm sure. So the team is kind of gathering all together, and it all kind of amalgamates itself from different books, and I guess you need to be a kind of big X title reader, because they go and find Peter Rasputin, Colossus, and he's just in, I guess, an apartment or a hotel room, drowning his sorrows after the non-wedding of the X century between him and Kitty Pryde that didn't happen. So he's a bit worse for wear, but he's up for, you know, some tough man action. And then they go and warn Dazzler, who is, well, she's hit bad times by the looks of it. She's out touring, doing the whole nostalgia thing, dressing up as she used to look in that bygone era of Dazzler. But it doesn't look like many people want to see her play. And there is just this apparently bunch, and I literally mean 4 or 5 people watching her, looking a little bit creepy and shady. And then again, this group of people come in. It looks like they're the bad guys, all these X-Men that have come together, try and take them down. Dazzler kind of helps them out to become the next member of the team, I guess. And they find out that it's actually a federal agency, kind of army unit that may or may not have been coming to help and rescue Dazzler themselves. I just found it very kind of disjointed and, like I said, a little bit clunky. Unfortunately, we're not getting a different artist like we did on the last 12-issue run. With Charles Soule. This seems to be Greg Land's landing platform for the moment, and I just don't really like his art style at all. It's just very flat. It's very kind of basic almost. The colours don't really do any justice to any of it. Again, it's kind of like this soft pastel-y type palette that D'Amata is using. I think it's Frank D'Amata, and it just, again, it just does nothing to it. It's very basic style, but I'm gonna get the next couple just to see if this goes anywhere. I feel like I should give it a try at least, but at the moment it's not really doing anything for me. Next up we have Paper Girls, Matthew K. Vaughan and Cliff Chang's kind of time travel, sci-fi, nostalgia ridden tale, and I use that tale very sparingly. With 23 issues gone now, I still find this book story-wise just meandering all over the place and doesn't seem to have a firm goal, path, direction, as we keep kind of retreading and regurgitating what's already been done or said in past issues, and this issue here just seems to be no different. We have the girls splitting up this time, some of them off to talk to a kind of, I guess she's a journalist, for some answers, perhaps to get back home, and then we get Mac and KG going off to find a hospital or a doctor that can cure the cancer in Mac. as she's found out in her future she's going to die of cancer. But now we're in the future. Seems to be disease has all but been got rid of. There are cures for everything, and there is a cure for cancer, so Mac is going to find that. And as I said, it kind of retreads old ground. The whole rocky relationship between KG and Mac. KG had a vision that saw her in an embrace with Mac, so there's that kind of lesbian subplot going on. Mac really isn't having anything to do with it, and that kind of 80s stereotypes of people's reactions to the gay lifestyle is that they don't even want them to touch you in case, you know, they catch something. But you kind of, this is the thing, at moments you kind of see Mac questioning herself or questioning the relationship, how close they really are, but then it kind of reverts back to the stereotypical norm. You know, I don't want to be particularly stereotypical here, but of all the characters, Mac looks the most likely to be a lesbian. So there's a kind of denial, it feels like there's a certain denial of her true self that Brian K. Vaughan is perhaps playing with there. But everything just seems to be a bit of a muddle and going nowhere. We get, I guess it's a kind of flashback, but it's kind of time hopping. We see these, some of the kind of army, I guess they are, or guards from the future go back to the girl's present, which is the 80s, and they're kind of trying to fix things there with, you know, flying pterodactyl type creatures falling from the sky and getting killed and whatnot, and trying to kind of cover up that, I guess. And then there's just this whole, I guess, overarching mystery that there is something very specific about these girls, and that is to do with their future, which is, I guess, where we are now, their present. It's all a bit confusing and, like I said, meandering. And I guess I can hear you all screaming at me. It's like, Mark, why are you still picking this up? And to that I would say, I'm 23 issues in now. I kind of stuck to it, and now I just want to know how it all ends. I don't know how much further Paper Girls has to go, what the future plans are from Brian, but I'd like to think that this is a story that Brian is starting to wrap up, though I can see no sign of that really from especially this issue. But it has to end eventually. There has got to be some sort of conclusion and more prominently answers to what has been going on in these past 23 issues. And hopefully we'll get them. Hopefully I'll be satisfied. Fingers crossed. Issue number 10 of Tom King and Mick Gerard's Mr. Miracle continues to frustrate and confuse me. I'm trying my hardest to work out what the hell is going on here. What kind of underlying story is going on that I am missing out on, and I've come to the kind of conclusion that I don't believe any of this is real. That's partly due to Mick Gerard's art style, the way that he has the panels. You know, he's using the 9-panel grid, but within those 9 panels everything just seems to be slightly off, whether it is kind of like a TV that's not quite tuned in enough, or whether it's just kind of out of focus or almost 3D like. There is an artificiality about what we are looking at in each panel. And I think it's certainly, I feel, done on purpose. And my idea about that is kind of compounded by what was the first issue's cover to what they've released of the very last one. I can show you the first one here. We have Mr. Miracle in front of a curtain doing the kind of magic gig thing with his escapology and all that. And if you've seen the solicitations for the final issue and the regular cover for it, you have Big Barda and Mr. Miracle in front of that same stage taking a bow. And it all feels like this has been a play of sorts, a TV show, a reality show, if you want. And if that is the case, I kind of feel a little bit cheated. But that's my very simple analysis, and I'm sure Tom King has a great deal more, or hopefully has a great deal more to finish this story off. Let's talk about the actual issue. We left off in issue 9 of them with the kind of Sophie's Choice dilemma. Big Barda's baby needs to be given to Darkseid to stop the war. If they don't, the war will continue. The war will be bloody. Many thousands of people will die. Do you give up your baby for the sake of life in general, you know, all of the population of, I guess, Apocalypse and those fighting against them? And so this kind of deals with the fallout of that, with Big Barda and Mr. Miracle doing their best, well, certainly Big Barda doing her best not to talk about it, because there is going to have to be a decision to be made. So we kind of have, I guess, Mr. Miracle drowning this out with alcohol, with, of all people, it looks like Blue Beetle and Booster Gold, but home they have to come. There's a whole birthday celebration to sort out, to organise, and people have picked up how humorous it is that they're going to have a kind of Batman themed birthday. But it's basically this parents, you know, having that very difficult conversation. The kind of needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few kind of deal. And obviously Barda as a mother does not want to give up her child, while Scott, Mr. Miracle, is trying to take, I think I'm using the word right, a more pragmatic approach with the fact that this could end the war that will go on, and countless hundreds and thousands of people will die because of it. And it kind of just concludes with the fact that Scott decides he's going to have to go and kill his father, which of course is Darkseid. It's all very kind of emotional, tugging at the heartstrings, but again, there just seems like something I'm missing out on here. I kind of said it so many times, from kind of like the middle issue onwards, really, where it's all very nice to look at. Mitch Sherrod's use of the 9-panel grid is just superior. I mean, you look at a shot like that, which is just a kind of still of a glass of, I guess, whiskey with some ice in it, but you gradually see the ice melting and watering down the whiskey. It's a nice shot of what is essentially nothing, but it's so cleverly done with the background conversation going on in the bubbles as we read through each panel. But with 2 more issues to go, you have to wonder how Tom King is going to wrap this up. I guess we'll see in the next 2 months or so, because I'm sure there will be another kind of break or a delay in solicitations that this book has kind of had on a couple of occasions. But once it's done, we'll have and if you're not read this but want to, or you're a little bit intrigued by it, then I'm sure this will come out in a very handy, gorgeous deluxe hardback, or if not, at least soft. And you may like it, and maybe someone can give me some clues about what's going on down in the comments section. Help, please, anybody. I'm still thoroughly enjoying David Lapham's Stray Bullets, Sunshine and Roses, which reaches issue 37 this week. And I wish I could tell you really what's going on, but I feel like this is a title that you really need to have read from the beginning, because the story kind of veers and digresses so often, and it's although it's kind of almost hard to keep a grasp on all the threads, David Lapham helps us out and does it for us, as the most bizarre and obscure storylines that he throws in seems to have some sort of relevance to the main plot, if you can call it that, that goes through. All I can really tell you about this issue is Orson gets back with our main character. Oh god, what's her name? There are a lot of characters in here, but I really should know her name, and I can't even see it being said. Oh, I hate that. But I mean, she's in a bad way there, but Amy! That's right, isn't it? Or is that her alter ego, Amy Racecar? I can't remember. Anyway, they're back together. Orson has cleaned himself up. There's no more of that madness with the moustache that kind of built up his confidence and the drinking, and he's supposedly thinking straight until the point that they have to go and rescue Nina yet again. Who didn't really look as if she needed much rescuing. She was kind of supposedly being used as some sort of hooker, call girl, and all these businessmen came in, and you thought, oh, this is not going to look good for Nina, but Nina can look after herself, especially when there's drugs around. She can snort, smoke, inhale much more than anyone in this book, and it's just hilarious to look at. And that's the great thing about this book. There's so much humour to it. It may be dark and black at times, but it still makes you laugh, even if you really shouldn't. So we're back to these guys all on the run, having all sorts of kind of assassins and gangsters and mobs after them, despite the fact that I don't think they have any of the money or the drugs now, because they kind of lost that along the way. And so they're being chased at the end of this, and Amy, I'm going to call her Amy, her only way to get out of this is to crash the car in front of a kind of diner, because she thinks the gangster, the mobster guy who's following them won't come around when there are witnesses. So we kind of left off. The cliffhanger of the book is kind of an upturned car, debris everywhere. We can't see what our gang are looking like, but I'm sure they won't be in a particularly good way. But as always, David Lapham does such a fantastic job with the storytelling on this, and who knows how much longer it's got to go, but I will be there to the end. The Highest House, issue number 6 from Mike Carey and Peter Gross, came to, I guess, a sort of conclusion with issue 6, the final issue for now. I kind of clarify a little bit, I guess. On Wednesday, when I was showing you my new comic books, I said this was the final issue, and in a way I feel like it probably is, despite the fact that at the end of this issue it says end of part 1, which makes me feel like there is more to come. And I did say on Wednesday I was very wary about how this was going to wrap up, if this was the final issue. And I guess if we never saw another issue of Highest House again, this is at least a suitable ending for, I guess, Moth in a way. It kind of wraps up some family business of his. But I guess we're only going to see the highest house if people will go out, and I guess the trade of this, when it's all collected, does well. And I hope you all do go out to buy this, because I think it's a fantastic book. It's so far removed from you kind of like your main two books. It's that European feel of comic book storytelling that you don't find very much, if at all, in kind of Marvel and DC. It's kind of got a little, obviously it's the Peter Gross effect, but it's kind of got that slight Vertigo feel to it, but there's much more of a European feel to it as well. So we have our main kind of character, Moth, who is on this kind of mission with his master, Lord Demony, and they're off to find out who is kind of against the house of Aldercrest, I think it's called. I'm not quite sure, that might be almost right. But yes, there's rumours about people kind of gathering together and waiting to overthrow this big majestic house, this family. So he takes Moth with him as a guide, along with the kind of his kind of right-hand guy, who's a little bit kind of mysterious, talks very cryptically, only gives information out when and how he feels like. And they're basically headed back to a town very close to where Moth was originally taken, his hometown, where he left his sister behind, who was going to go blind. We obviously had, for those of you who've been keeping up with this book, Moth has been given this kind of magical stone, and it can either restore the sight of his sister, or he can use it just the once to get out of some sort of danger that probably he doesn't feel he can get out of himself. So he gets sent into this village by Lord Demony to kind of sniff out, find out some rumours about what's going on, and Moth finds out about his sister, and she has kind of, sounds like she's on hard times since he left, as his mother has decided that a blind girl is of no use in the house, and the only thing that the mother can do with the daughter now is to basically use her as a whore, and let the local men in the village sleep with her for money. And it's a nice little kind of twist, a kind of bright ray of hope that she was rescued by Moth's mentor back at the castle, who taught him how to kind of make all the roofs and such like. She went back to Moth's old hometown and rescued the daughter, and finally the daughter is there living a lovely life out in the woods with her husband and her children, and they have a great life. Unfortunately, Moth can't save his sister's sight, because he has to use this rock to get to the power to help him out of this big fire. It's all very dramatic, very exciting. I love the kind of historical, although highly inaccurate, because we're in this fantastical realm, but the idea that what is the most dangerous thing in this world at the moment that could overthrow Lord Demony's house is a printing press, and back when, you know, in history when that was, it was deemed a very dangerous tool, because it was going to replace things like steel, you know, raw materials. People were going to be using these little bits of paper as kind of promises, I guess you call them, back then, rather than cash money. And I just like those historical touches to it, despite we're living in this kind of fantastical world where the ground's roots can come up and grab you and drag you down into the soil to kill you, or you swallow a big stone and extinguish flames. It's just been a wonderful fantasy story. As I said, I love the fantasy genre as a whole. It's one of my favourite genres, and this was just so up my alley, and I need more of this. So one, if you want to collect the single issues, go out and find them. There's 6 of them. If you can't find them, wait for the trade to come out. Buy the trade. Tell Mike Carey, tell Peter Gross how much you love it and how much you want to see book 2 start, and I'll be a happy comic book reader too. Great stuff. My penultimate book of the week, most fun. It's The Adventures of Super Sons. They're back. Superboy and Robin just doing what they do best, learning to be superheroes, fighting with each other, and just having an awesome time while doing it. Yes, we've got Peter Tomasi back writing these 2 crazy kids, and I couldn't be more happy, because the last series, and why they had to stop it, I don't know. They should have just continued with this, but I'm glad they have come back, even if it is only going to be for 12 issues more. Perhaps if enough people buy this, they might reconsider, make it longer, do another volume, whatever. But a lot of fun was had with this. You have them right at the very beginning fighting a kind of gold statue of Superman, which is being controlled by an old Justice League villain, the Puppeteer. And again, the humour and joking around in this is great, as Superboy kind of keeps the kind of robot Superman distracted. Robin goes to fix the source, who's controlling it, the Puppeteer. But then he's in control of the robot, so he has a little bit of fun with his mate Superboy, John, and has a little bit of fighting himself, which is all fun and silly nonsense, but just great entertainment. And then it kind of switches, and not necessarily a darker moment, but a mysterious moment, where out in space we have someone who's located the boys and needs to go with well, who knows at this point, but they found the boys, and they're going to be after them. There's going to be trouble, and so we get the whole, they're back at school. It's the last day. They get to go and finish school, last day of summer, last day of school to go to the summer, and so these two can have a little play about and become the Summer of Super, which annoys Robin no end. And of course we've got to have some craziness, some adventures for them to fight, and we see this kind of wolf type guy causing havoc down in, I guess, is it Metropolis they're in? Yes, the Mall of Metropolis. So the boys are there to fix him, but this has all been a trap, because we have the reveal of the gang. Oh, this is the kind of fun, crazy stupidness that I love about comics. It kind of harkens back to a less serious age of comics, as we get the kind of young, I guess, teenage versions of all these villains. So you've got Brainiac, you've got the Joker, you've got Lex Luthor, you've got Deathstroke, you've got Ice Princess, which I guess is Frost, and Shaggy Boy, whoever that is, but they are all teenage versions. So this sets up really a really nice kind of band of villains for our two to play with. but it's not looking good for the two already. This little version from another dimension or another multiverse, I'm guessing, has some gold kryptonite, and gold kryptonite apparently sucks all the power for good out of Superboy or any super person. So not looking good for John in this book, but what a load of fun I had with this book. Just fantastic, looks glorious, artwork by Barberi and colours by Thibbert. It's just beautiful, and again, I don't know if I've had a chance, I probably have said this many a times, but I love this new paper stock, this more papery matte style rather than the glossy like this on the front. Love it. Again, harkening back to a more romantic age of comics, only you're not getting all the ink on your fingers. Brilliant stuff. So for those of you who have already seen my Wednesday Pull List video, you've probably worked out what my #1 pick of the week was. For last week, it was of course the welcome return of Rick Remender and Jerome Pina's Seven to Eternity, issue number 10. And while I was a little bit trepidatious about starting this because there had been such a gap between the last issue, this is the first one that I can recall that has been out this year, so it's a good 6 or 7 months since we've seen this. I did wonder whether I was going to be able to pick this up again and know what was going on, but it just felt like coming back home to your favourite fantasy novel again. I loved it. It was just spectacular, and I can see why we've had to wait almost half or over half a year for the next issue, because Jerome Pina's art is astonishingly good in this. We kind of centre for the most part on our main characters, Adam and the Mud King, who are still on their journey looking for, well, it's kind of getting a bit muddy now, pardon the pun, with the whole Mud King, because with just the two of them alone now, Adam is almost kind of starting to relate to the Mud King in some ways, and perhaps that he isn't the baddest guy that perhaps he's been made out to be, and you kind of get a little sneak into the kind of backstory, the history of the Mud King and how he is kind of part of his own race and part human, which you know, makes him different, doesn't make him one of the, I guess you call them the tribe. So his life has always been difficult, being an outsider, trying to prove himself in many ways. And Adam can kind of almost relate to this, and you see a kind of uneasy friendship beginning to start, which makes for incredibly interesting reading. But before, you know, we can get so far, you know, we get a lot of conversation here between the two. There's got to be some action thrown into here somewhere, and this comes in the guise of these kind of, I guess you'd call them sky pirates, who descend on the two and whisk the Mud King away because they recognise him and ready for execution. Again, it's Jerome Pina's wonderful artwork that just fully realises all these wonderful environments and characters that appear on the page. It's just so beautiful. And the kind of, not so much twist, but the irony here is that Adam feels that it's now his duty to go and save the Mud King from these kind of sky pirates, and so he's off into the clouds to do a kind of daring rescue attempt. Just a fantastic return. I shouldn't have doubted it for a second, certainly not visually, because Jerome Pina puts all his effort and his passion. The work is so detailed, I am in awe. It's a gorgeous book. If you've not been reading Seven to Eternity, where have you been? And go and pick up the past issues, the trades, and then jump on board with the new issues coming out now. Love this book. Definitely worth pick of the week. And that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to tune in on Wednesday when there'll be a new set of books for me to show you. I hope you are all well, you enjoyed your books. Don't forget to thumb this video up, comment down below, and if you're new and you don't want to miss out on any more of my videos, hit the subscribe button, and there's a notification bell now we need to press, and you'll get a little message telling you that I've uploaded a new video. So don't miss out. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate all your views, your likes and your comments. I will see you very soon. Bye bye.